base 4 times, and this one hit deep to left. Back is Anthony. Back to the wall. Out of here! Kevin McGriddle's home run, and the Mets win it 7-4.
And it's hit hard, and a base hit, and the Mets will win it. Darryl Boston with a single to right field, and the Mets win it 2-1.
What I've enjoyed the most is the fact that we were down by so many games, and I think people are quick to forget that we were down by 9.5 games. And yes, it was early, it was in June, but a good ball club can battle back.
Deep to left, back to the wall, out of here! Home run, and the Mets win it 7-4. Oh, brother!
Well, Dave might have hit himself into the lineup on a permanent basis with this day that he's had here today.
As far as something that really turned my career around and really opened some eyes and got me to start playing every day, that game in Chicago where I had the 6 RBIs.
And the pitch is hit down the right field corner. It might drop in. It does, and the Mets win the ball game. The Mets with 3 runs in the 9th inning. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And the pitch. Fastball struck him out.
The emotion coming off that mound was just too much. I just kind of went berserk and went crazy in the dugout.
Line drive, base hit right center. The Mets win it 6-5 on a 2-out, bases loaded hit by Tim Teufel.
You don't want to make a mistake here against Strawberry.
He got a fastball up in the strike zone, and once that happened, you know, I knew what to do with it.
Hit high in the air, deep to right field, way back. Bonilla back to the wall, looks up, and it's out of here!
The 1990 New York Mets, stories of a season. The Major League Baseball season began on a somber note in 1990 because it almost didn't begin at all. A lockout delayed the start of spring training by over a month. Finally, the camps were opened. At Port St. Lucie, there were signs that the Mets would return to the championship caliber form that had eluded them the year before. The injury that had forced Dwight Gooden to miss a good portion of 1989 appeared to have healed. Darryl Strawberry had overcome personal problems and was ready to swing his mighty bat. A rare surplus of good starting pitchers meant that Ron Darling and Bobby Ojeda would compete for the 5th spot in the rotation. New faces brightened up the camp, like Mike Marshall, who was expected to be the everyday first baseman. Marshall had arrived in a trade with the Dodgers, along with relief pitcher Alejandro Pena, a setup man for the league's premier closer, John Franco, whom the Mets acquired from the Reds for Randy Myers. Add talent, subtract injuries, it equals confidence.
Overall, it was our best spring training we've ever had as far as optimism and coming out of camp, feeling good about ourselves. There was no trouble. At that point, how I viewed it was that this team was in harmony and was heading in the right direction. It wasn't going to be any problems for the rest of the year.
April 9th, opening day, and the expectations were high. 48,000 fans came out to the Big Shea on a beautiful spring day, not only to see the Mets go for their 6th consecutive opening day win, but to get acquainted with the everyday players who, over the course of the next 6 months, would become a sort of extended family. This was the first look at the 1990 Mets family. Fittingly, the Mets' opening day opponents were the Pittsburgh Pirates, who would be their primary competition all season long. It took the Bucks almost no time to make their presence felt. They hammered the Mets, exposing weaknesses in the process.
Drifting, and cannot make the play. Backman rounding second, going to third. Really showing his inexperience in center field, drifting on that ball. You cannot do that. You've got to get back.
And a ground ball to second could be a double play, and it's bobbled by Jeffries, and this has not been the Mets' day.
I didn't make an error the whole spring training. I played great there, and my first game I made 2 errors. It was like, oh, no. You know, it was a tough situation, but, you know, unfortunately we lost. It wasn't one of the best opening days for the Mets. I think we got killed, actually.
This one is long gone. Goodbye.
They made a major statement there that they were going to be a tough team to be, or be a force at least to be reckoned with. In '88, they were a great team, I thought, and we just kind of pulled away late in the year. In '89, they had some injuries. In '90, early in the year, they made it known early that they were going to be there.
The 12-3 loss was the Mets' worst ever on opening day. Of more immediate concern, though, was that the team continued to struggle.
That's an easy play. Oh, throw! One run in! Another runner's heading for the plate! The throw! He beats it! 2-run score on a routine ground ball.
Tagging up at second is Tuffle, but he will not cross over. Yes, he will. And a throw to third, and he's going to be out. So Tuffle makes the last out of the inning at third and a bad base running mistake.
The Mets made many early season mistakes, though none was more frustrating than one by David Cone.
Breaking ball, grounder. Marshall lets Jeffries get it, toss to Cone, he tags the bag. And they say safe. Watch the runner, he's not watching the runner. The runner scores. And Cone's still arguing. Here comes the second runner. The second runner scores. I don't believe I just saw that. I don't believe it.
It was just as hard to believe that at the end of April, the Mets were in 4th place, 4.5 games behind the Pirates. Clearly, their intensity level was near 0. The Mets needed a jolt, and they got one.
And a balk is being called on John Franco. Doug Harvey just called a balk on Franco for not stopping. The Astros lead 4-3.
Johnny was still relatively new to the team at the time. A lot of guys really didn't know his personality at the time, and for a game to be played that closely all the way through and then possibly have a game decided on a balk call, you know, that's hard, especially for a pitcher like Johnny, who's supposed to be in there to shut the other team down.
Supporting your teammate with words is kind. Doing it with your bat is even better.
This one hit deep to left. Back is Anthony. Back to the wall. Out of here! Kevin McGriddle's home run, and the Mets win it 7-4. Oh, brother! If there was ever a team that needed a victory like the one they got today, it was the New York Mets.
It was my first win as a Met anyway. That one right there meant something to me, and plus coming back from you know, being down 1 run and the way they scored off of me, I was really still hot-tempered, and when K-Mac came up and just hit a home run, you know, you forget all about that when we got the win.
The win gave the Mets an emotional lift, which they sorely needed. Another exhilarating spark was the acquisition of Darryl Boston. Boston was picked up on waivers from the Chicago White Sox and instantly breathed life into the Mets lineup. He prevented runs and provided them.
And a towering fly hit deep to right by Darryl Boston. There it goes.
Boston off, jumping, can he get there? Diving, what a catch! Oh, Boston!
The newest member of the Mets family gave a refreshing look to the outfield. Boston undoubtedly improved the Mets defensively, but Woman's Magazine would say he improved them cosmetically as well. In May, they named him one of the 6 sexiest men in baseball.
I hate guys like him. He's tall, he's good looking, he looks great in clothes. The guys I don't like him. Guys like that, I don't like. He's probably one of the better dressed guys, and probably on a limited salary. You know, we got some millionaires on this club that probably have better resources than Darryl. Darryl does the best with what he has.
Tall, dark, and handsome, and you know, he's gonna make some woman happy one day.
One woman he's already made happy is comedian Whoopi Goldberg, who was at Shea as part of Comic Relief Night.
Now, this is the guy you like.
This is the one.
Daryl Boston.
Daryl Boston. Daryl Boston, Chicago, Manhattan. I said, now he's here. Thank you, God.
He's looking up here for you.
I'm right here, Daryl.
It's quite an honor, quite simply.
Another publication wrote of the rhythm that Frank Viola had developed. Of the Mets' first 16 wins, 7 were by Viola, which he'd achieved without a loss. He joined the Mets in August of '89, but pitched just .500 ball. This year, though, he performed brilliantly, like a true maestro.
The pitch, and it's popped up, and that should be the ball game. Couple, the second baseman, is there, and he makes the catch, and Viola gets his 57th career complete game, his 12th career shutout.
He was just very determined to show everybody that last year was a fluke year for Frank Viola. He was disappointed in the work that he gave us last year after we acquired him from Minnesota, and I think he was disappointed that he had a losing season. And I think he'd done a lot of extra work prior to coming to spring training to, get himself off on a very good start.
My 7-0 start is nice, and that I was able to help the team achieve something. But, looking at the overall picture, one person can't do it, and that's a prime example of that.
Viola was exactly right. With the Mets languishing in 4th place, the overall picture looked bleak. First place seemed to be getting further and further out of reach, and the once high expectations were dashed by the team's lowly play. The Mets were in desperate need of an adjustment.
Once the manager is in that pressure situation, I think it filters down to the players. There's a lot of pressing going on. We had a real bad first 2 months of the year, and it really showed on the ball field.
Every day after the ball game, whether we win or lose, the whole conversation was, do you think Davey's going to be fired? You think they're going to get him to the All-Star break? You think Davey deserves to stay? I mean, you come to the ballpark, you want to focus on the team you have to play instead of having all the things, interfering with you.
And it almost became a distraction where you figured sooner or later it was going to happen, that he was going to get fired, because that seemed to be the next logical step.
This afternoon I had the very unhappy duty of letting my manager, Davey Johnson, go, and I suppose in a way the very happy duty of replacing him with Bud Harrelson.
Davey Johnson's reign as Mets manager was over. In his 7-year tenure, he won more games than any manager in team history. You know what happens in June. The buds bloom, and so did the Mets. Harrelson got his first win on June 1st, but perhaps a more memorable game for him came 4 days later.
Well, it was June 5th, and my birthday's June 6th, and Tom had been struggling for us as a pinch hitter. And I said I would give all my presents back the next day if Tom O'Malley would just hit a home run.
And a towering fly ball deep to center. Back, Martinez. Warning track reaching up. Home run! A home run! O'Malley! The Mets win it!
It was a birthday wish that came true, and I thought that was the catalyst that got us going in June.
O'Malley's home run catapulted the Mets. Once they were airborne, Dave Magadan helped them fly. June was an especially festive month for Magadan, who had his coming out party in Chicago. Given a rare invitation to start a game, he responded with a 4 for 4.
Line drive, base hit. Magadan, what a day. That is his 6th run driven in, and the Mets lead it 16-6.
Well, Dave might have hit himself into the lineup on a permanent basis with this day that he's had here today.
It's a tremendous lift for me to think about that day and what Dave Magadan did and the problems he's had, and he's really earned his spot and earned his wings as far as reversing their thinking.
The Mets' original thinking had Mike Marshall playing first base, but injuries and other things changed their minds.
He got into a fracas with our manager. They couldn't agree. They obviously didn't like each other. And it got to the point where I had to move Mike Marshall.
The move was a hit for Magadan, who in turn never went more than 2 games without one.
This guy can just flat out hit.
Another hit for Dave Magadan. Wow. Dave Magadan tattooing that ball to center field. Wow. Who said he didn't have power?
It'd be hard to imagine where this team would be without him.
He hit, and that was something we didn't have in the lineup, where a guy was just constantly hitting for average.
With the help of Magadan's hot bat, the Mets made a run for the top spot. They went on an incredible streak, 24 wins in 28 games, which brought optimism and confidence back to Shea. And everyone was contributing. The Mets won repeatedly, as well as dramatically. Greg Jeffrey's bat was sizzling hot. During an 11-game hitting streak in mid-June, he hit .447 with 8 RBIs. More welcome heat came from the backstop, Mackey Sasser.
Long fly ball to right field. Back goes Krabs. Home run, Mackey Sasser. 4-0 New York.
Sasser lifted the team with his bat all season, becoming the Mets' first catcher ever to hit over 300. Behind the plate, he didn't just fill a void, he erased one. He also erased a footnote in Mets history.
There goes Coleman. The throw is a good one, and they get him for the first time. First time the Mets have ever caught Vince Coleman.
I knew I could throw guys out. It was just a matter of me getting time to play and playing consistently every day and get relaxed and get in there and do it.
The Mets were finally doing it all, and the wins added up.
Here's the pitch. Grounded out in front of home plate. Picked up by Sasser. The throw to first base ends the ball game. And they have extended their winning streak to 11 consecutive ball games to tie a Mets record.
While all the Mets participated in the team's June revival, no one contributed more than Darryl Strawberry. After a relatively slow start, Darryl came to life and simply tore the ball apart, just like he said he would.
It was like June 1st, and Darryl looked at me and Doc, Dwight, and said, this is going to be one of the months where I just carry us where I hit 10, 15 home runs and drive in 30 runs.
Strawberry's numbers for the month were eye-opening. He fashioned a career-high 18-game hitting streak, batting .412 in the process. He hit 10 home runs with 27 RBIs in June, dramatically pointing the team in a winning direction.
He can carry a team on his shoulders for a period of time, and that's saying a lot.
It's a lot different if I get hot, or Magsy or Howard or McReynolds gets hot, opposed to Straw. If Straw gets hot, he can carry a team.
It's one of the most amazing streaks I've ever seen a guy get on.
Darryl had 37 homers this year, but he doesn't just hit them, he crushes them far, far away.
They're either shopping for a car or looking for the ball, one or the other. Strawberry, deep and high and out in his ballpark. Second home run of the game for Darryl Strawberry. What a bomb!
That's when you know you're one of the most powerful hitters in baseball, is when your teammates admire your shots. They're in awe of this guy.
That one day I came to the park, I just said, this is time for it to happen. I'm going to have my intensity level up higher than anything that has ever been, and I'm going to play baseball hard. And from that day on, I didn't look back.
Without Darryl's torrid month, the Mets' chances might have been lost. In June, they were found. By the All-Star break, the Mets had closed the Pirates' first-place lead to just 1/2 game. When the Mets had been floundering, they called upon a piece of the past to help remodel the future.
Oh, my God.
It should have come as a surprise to no one that the choice would be Bud Harrelson, who put on his first Met uniform in 1965. Old number 3 is now second on the team's all-time list of games played and at-bats, and is a member of the Mets Hall of Fame. But he played his heart out for the Mets and left warm and lasting memories. As manager, he injected the team with a much-needed sense of purpose.
Everybody was happy with their roles because they finally had roles. And Buddy wasn't afraid to talk to him and let him know that the roles are going to be what they are. And when everybody has that little happiness and have that little feeling of they're part of the team, that pulls the team together. And I think that was the biggest difference at the time.
Cowboys don't cry.
And heroes don't die.
You hear that? Heroes don't die either. I wish it were true.
Good always wins.
Good always wins.
Again and again.
So the Mets season had turned from bad to good. But now they had to keep the momentum going. Dwight Gooden's record had fallen to a disappointing 3-5 on June 2nd. But after that, he was vintage Doc, going 15-2.
I can only identify with the players from my past experience of when Seaver took the mound, and you felt you were going to get a quality start, that he had great stuff, that he could be overpowering. To be 3 or 4 runs down with Doc on the mound, knowing that he could just slam the door and you could catch up. So to see Doc start out slow was no great disaster, knowing that he had the ability to regroup and come back strong, which he ultimately did.
David Cohn also struggled in the first half of the season, going 1-4 with 4 no decisions. But he rejuvenated himself with a 6-game winning streak that carried into July.
I knew in the back of my mind, even when I had 2 good starts that were rained out, that my luck had to change and that I was doing the right thing. I was throwing the ball well, and finally it turned around for me. In 4 consecutive games, I struck out 10 batters and had, a pretty good streak going. I think that was reflective of me having my perspective and just working hard and not getting too down when the times were pretty down.
When Mets starters were down, they found relief in John Franco. The Brooklyn native didn't allow a run in 10 straight appearances in June and saved 9 straight games in July.
And the 0-2 pitch swung at it, missed, strike 3. John Franco comes in and does the job.
It was a different feeling than I've had since I've been associated with the Mets, as far as having a closer like a John Franco that you can give the ball to at the end and know that you have a very good chance of, winning that ball game.
On July 25th, the Mets desperately needed Franco's help to win a ball game. They'd blown a 10-0 lead to the Phillies, and now the score was 10-9. A base hit would tie or win the game.
If Franco can save this one, he has earned his money for the whole year. Here's the pitch on the way. Line drive caught. The game is over. The Mets win it. A line drive to Mario Diaz. And the Mets win the ball game. They win the damn thing by a score of 10-9. And win it on a line drive to end the ball game. Oh, wow.
The Mets trailed the Pirates by just 3 games, when on August 20th, they were really cursed, or so it seemed. Mark Carrion was having his finest season until a torn ligament ended it. That started a string of bad luck, which further depleted the troops.
Nobody wants to touch that cat. You can bet on it, man. Don't do it, Kevin. Don't do it. Let the ump do it.
What a pair of hands he's got.
Elster does have exceptionally good hands, among the best in the league. But they were forced out of the lineup when he aggravated his sore shoulder making a play in St. Louis. Surgery was required, and his season was over. Losing your shortstop creates a problem, but fortunately, the Mets had the answer.
Hard ground ball. Howard Johnson, what a play. Throw to first. Scoop by Magadan. Ground ball in the hole. Long throw by Howard Johnson. He gets the unbelievable play.
He hits it up the middle. Taken by Johnson. What a play, and the throw to first base will get it. Howard Johnson has become a shortstop.
Seeing Howard struggle a little bit at third base this year and then moving short, you didn't know what to expect. But he played some of the best shortstop I've ever seen played. And that's credit to him, because he was struggling a little bit this year batting, but he got big hits. He made all the plays. He's a consummate pro. He does the little things. he's just there game in, game out. He's a gamer. I guess that's the best way of putting it. He's a gamer.
Though it wasn't his chosen position, the man from Tampa felt right at home. A girl from Kansas once said, "There's no place like home," and she was right. The Mets returned to Shea in late August, trailing the Pirates by 4 games. If there was a roof on Shea, the Mets would have blown it off. They came from behind in games as well as in the standings. Darryl Boston showed his passion for heroics on August 29th against the Padres.
And it's hit hard, and a base hit to the Mets will win it. Darryl Boston with a single to right field, and the Mets win it 2-1. Another comeback win for the Mets.
2 days later, the comeback kids were at it again. The Giants took a 3-1 lead into the 9th. The Mets were 1 out away from falling further behind Pittsburgh.
Up the middle, a base hit, and the Mets will tie up the ball game. Strawberry on his way to third, the throw into second, and the Mets have tied it with 2 runs here in the 9th inning.
While the Mets erased a lead in New York, the Pirates were blowing one in Houston. Like the Giants, the Bucks let a 2-run 9th inning lead go to waste.
Wilson to right field, base hit. Here comes Stubbs, and the Astros win it 3-2.
The Pirates' loss reduced their lead over the Mets to just 1 game, while back in New York, Howard Johnson had a chance to chop that lead in half.
And the pitch is hit down the right field corner. It might drop in. It does, and the Mets win the ball game. The Mets with 3 runs in the 9th inning. And they win it by a score of 4-3.
What a game! What a game for the Mets!
Amazingly, as September started, the Mets were right back in the race. Why amazingly? Because the team had undergone a facelift. Of the 8 regulars who started the season, only 2 were positioned the same. Darryl Boston had become the center fielder. Dave Magadan was now at first. Hojo and Greg Jeffries played new positions. And 2 more newcomers rounded out the field. Tommy Herr was acquired for the stretch run. His dividends paid off in his very first game.
And a well-hit fly ball deep to right field, way back toward the wall. Gone, a home run.
With Philadelphia and St. Louis, Herr had been a Mets killer. In New York, though, he became a defensive cure.
And the pitch. Line drive, a 1-hopper. The play's coming home from Tommy Herr. The slide, out at the plate. Out at the plate. He got it in to Charlie O'Brien, and O'Brien tagged out Matt Williams.
Herr's throw was on the money to Charlie O'Brien, a defensive standout who the Mets acquired from Milwaukee when Sasser got hurt.
There goes Jose. The fastball's a strike. The throw, got him. What a quick release by Charlie O'Brien.
Another late-season addition was Pat Tabler, who'd gained fame for his phenomenal .487 average with the bases loaded. Mets fans were anxious to see him in action.
Hit up the middle, and another base hit with the bases loaded. 1 run scored. 2 runs scored. Then Tabler with another base hit with the bases loaded.
One reason Tabler was signed was to help the Mets overcome their most difficult obstacle of the season, left-handed pitching. It hardly mattered who the pitcher was or what team he was on. If he was a lefty, the Mets were in trouble.
Lefties, lefties, left. 3 games, we'll see all lefties. And, I mean, they'll bring guys out of the stands if they can pitch left-handed pitch against us.
The Mets had the worst record in the league against left-handers, which would severely hurt them in September. When the Mets arrived in Pittsburgh on September 5th, first place was well in sight, just a half game away. This 3-game series would be an indicator of how much catching up, if any, the Mets had left. Again, the key word is left, because that's all the Mets would see. In 3 games against 3 lefties, the Mets scored a grand total of 2 runs.
High ball, right center field, and Slate goes over, makes the grab, and the Pirates have swept the Mets.
I think we were really disappointed in our performance against them. Didn't swing the bats at all. I mean, we just stunk.
Pittsburgh really gained a lot of momentum at that point, but we felt that, you know, we were coming home and they were going to be coming to our ballpark, and we could just as much turn things around there.
On September 11th, the day before the Pirates came to town, the Mets were in a bind. Pittsburgh had already won its game, opening up a 4-game lead. The Mets needed a boost.
Well hit right field. Way back and way out of here. The New York Mets get a much-needed victory from Darryl Strawberry's two-run homer.
This was it, the two biggest games of the year. Both teams were hungry for the division title, but the Pirates, with their 3.5-game lead, were in the driver's seat. The Mets would need a strategy, how to score runs off a Pirate team that had silenced them a week earlier. The Mets' bats needed a wake-up call. The ploy seemed to work as the Mets' bats caught fire in the first inning.
Magnan drives the ball in the gap, right center field. Jeffries will score. Here comes Miller. He's being waved around. Magnan is on second base on a stand-up double.
The Mets took a 2-1 lead into the top of the 8th when the Pirates threatened. It was showdown time. David Cone versus Bobby Bonilla. Power versus power.
And the pitch. Fastball struck him out. 8th strikeout for David Cone, and that one a big one, leaving the tying run at second.
The Mets were pumped up. Cone kept his intensity level up, but more importantly, he kept the Bucks off the bases in the 9th. And the first game belonged to the Mets. The Pirate lead was down to 2.5 games, and the Mets were, well, smoking. In the 4th inning of the next game, Darryl Strawberry took control.
Ground ball toward the home base hit going into right field. Bonds gets a green light. Strawberry up with the ball. Here's the throw to the plate. It's going to be close. He is out at the plate.
Strawberry's arm kept the Mets within reach. And in the bottom of the inning, his bat turned the game around.
You don't want to make a mistake here against Strawberry. Deep to right field, way back. Bonilla back to the wall, looks up, and it's out of here! 3-run homer, Darryl Strawberry, and the Mets take a 3-2 lead.
The Mets eventually took a 6-3 lead, which in John Franco's hands was insurmountable.
And the pitch swung on and missed, and the Mets have swept the Pirates. Franco picking up his 32nd save, and the Mets pull to within 1.5 games of the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are 1 game back in the loss column.
As it turned out, the Mets were never able to get over that 1-game hurdle. While they handled the Pirates relatively well, they struggled with the division's other teams. They got swept at home by Montreal and dropped 2 of 3 to the Phillies. A loss in Chicago was an especially hard pill to swallow.
Slider popped up. Shallow left field. DeCinzo in, and he squeezes it. A bitter defeat.
It reached the point where the Mets' future was in someone else's hands, and what happened in another game was as important as what happened in theirs. The Mets played hard, but ultimately, it wasn't enough.
Well, the season has ended for the New York Mets. The Pirates winning 2-0 behind Doug Drayback today, his 22nd victory. And the curtain has fallen on the Mets for 1990. The fans here in the ballpark today applauding the trials and tribulations of the Mets in their hopes to win the pennant in 1990.
Very frankly, I thought that by the time we got to September that we were going to win the Eastern Division, but that was not to be. And I want to point out that we didn't lose the Eastern Division the Pirates won it. The Pirates were a heck of a good ball club, particularly in September. Going down the stretch when we were neck and neck, they won 10 out of 11 games that they played. We played well, but we never did quite catch them, and they deserved to win.
Obviously, the Mets didn't go as far as they would have liked. But as a team, they won over 90 games for the 6th time in 7 years. And as individuals, they accomplished a great deal. Darryl Strawberry established a Mets club record with his 108 RBIs, surpassing the previous record of 105 shared by Rusty Staub and Gary Carter. The first time the Mets saw Darryl play, he was a star for Crenshaw High School of Los Angeles, the city where he'll be playing beginning next year. Darryl's put up huge numbers for the Mets and was a part of some unforgettable moments, including the glorious 1986 championship season. His 8-year tenure had its share of both ups and downs, and he truly occupied the spotlight. The Mets wish him well. 1990 was a sensational season for Dave Magadan, whose .328 batting average was the 2nd highest in team history. And defensively, Dave had the highest fielding percentage of any first baseman in the league. Greg Jeffries was among the league leaders in both runs scored and multi-hit games. His 40 doubles were the most in the National League. The Mets tied for the Major League lead in home runs this season with 172, which was 20 more than the total of any other National League club. The Met pitchers were outstanding this season. Frank Viola became just the 18th pitcher in history to win 20 games in each league. He led the NL in innings pitched and was 4th in strikeouts. Sid Fernandez was 5th in the league in strikeouts. Opponents hit just 200 against him, which was best in the league. Doc Gooden finished strongly with 19 wins. He was 2nd in the league in strikeouts and improved his career record to 119 and 46. Remarkably, 4 Met pitchers finished in the top 5 in the league in strikeouts. David Cone was number 1 in both leagues with 233. If the Mets starters faltered, they fell into good hands. In his first season with the Mets, John Franco set a club record with 33 saves. He led the league in saves for the 2nd time in his career. The New York Mets were competitive in 1990, and they'll be even more so in 91. As always, they'll be in the chase for the division title. If all goes well, the other teams will be chasing them.
One of the major stories today, whether Keith Miller can get rid of his hiccups or not. Nope, not yet.
Frank Viola will be going for his 20th win here if he gets that shaving cream off the top of his hat.
Now he's going to try to take a deep breath. Are we keeping you up, perhaps, Keith?
Imagine what's going to happen if Viola walks out to the mound with that shaving cream on the top of his cap.
Scaring someone will get rid of, right?
Oh, man.
See? I told you. All you have to do is scare somebody, and that's what David Cohn was trying to do to Keith Miller, trying to scare the hiccups out of him.
Do you think the umpires are going to bother telling him? That's unbelievable.